The first reading tonight is from Genesis. Joseph said to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" But this brother could not answer him. So dismayed were they at his presence. Then Joseph said to his brothers, "Come closer to me." And they came closer. He said, "I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. And now do not be distressed or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, for God sent me before you to preserve life. For the famine has been in the land these 2 years, and there are 5 more years in which there will be neither plowing nor harvest. God sent me before you to preserve for you a remnant on earth, and to keep alive for you many survivors. So it was not you who sent me here, but God. He has made me a father to Pharaoh, and the Lord of all his house and ruler over all the land of Egypt. Hurry and go up to my father and say to him, 'Thus says your son Joseph, God has made me Lord of all Egypt. Come down to me, do not delay. You shall settle in the land of Goshen, and you shall be near me, you and your children and your children's children, as well as your flocks, your herds, and all that you have. I will provide for you there, since there are 5 more years of famine to come, so that you and your household and all that you have will not come to poverty.' And he kissed all his brothers and wept upon them. And after that his brothers talked to him." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Please read responsively Psalm 37. Do not be provoked by evildoers. Do not be jealous of those who do wrong.
For they shall soon wither like the grass, and like the green grass fades away.
Put your trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and find safe pasture.
Take delight in the Lord, who shall give you your heart's desire.
Commit your way to the Lord. Put your trust in the Lord, and see what God will do.
The Lord will make your vindication as clear as the light, and the justice of your case like the noonday sun.
Be still before the Lord and wait patiently. Do not be provoked by the one who prospers, the one who succeeds in evil schemes.
Refrain from anger, leave rage alone. Do not be provoked, it leads only to evil.
For evildoers shall be cut off, but those who hope in the Lord shall possess the land.
In a little while the wicked shall be no more. Even if you search out their place, they will not be there.
But the lowly shall possess the land. They will delight in abundance of peace.
But the deliverance of the righteous comes from you, O Lord.
You are their stronghold in time of trouble. You, O Lord, will help them and rescue them. You will rescue them from the wicked and deliver them, because in you they seek refuge. The second reading is from 1 Corinthians. But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body do they come? Fool! What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. And as for what you sow, you do not sow the body that is to be, but a bare seed, perhaps of wheat or of some other grain. But God gives it a body as he has chosen, and to each kind of seed its own body. So it is with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable. What is raised is imperishable. It is sown in dishonor. It is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness. It is raised in power. It is sown a physical body. It is raised a spiritual body. If there is a physical body, there is also a spiritual body. Thus it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving spirit. But it is not the spiritual that is first, but the physical, and then the spiritual. The first man was from the earth, a man of dust. The second man is from heaven, as was the man of dust. So are those who are of the dust, and as in the man of heaven, so are those who are of heaven. Just as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we will also bear the image of the man of heaven. What I am saying, brothers and sisters, is this: flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
The Holy Gospel is according to the 6th chapter of the book of St. Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said, "But I say to you that listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also, and from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you, and if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Please be seated. And let us pray. Gracious Lord, may the words of my mouth and the meditation of each heart here be acceptable in your sight, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. Well, when you hear today's gospel reading, don't you just feel like saying, oh, you have got to be kidding. You have got to be kidding. Love your enemy. Do good to those who hate you. You know, maybe you don't struggle with these words in the same way that I do. You know, I really struggle with these words. Some people are genuinely kind, and I'm most often kind, but I also have a streak within me of vindictiveness and a temper that I hate to admit to. These words convict me. They say, Michelle, you're guilty. So who are these enemies that I'm supposed to love? You know, immediately after Jesus says these words, he tells us that we are to do good to those who hate us. So maybe the people who are my enemies, I could say, are the ones that I hate in my heart. Although hate is a very strong word, and I don't really care for it, but that's what we have. So basically, it's a two-way street Jesus is talking about here. I'm to love those whom I hate, and I'm to do good to those who hate me. So in essence, this means absolutely everyone I have ever had a conflict with, everyone who has ever hurt me, everyone who has ever been hurt by me, everyone my personality rubs the wrong way, and vice versa. Jesus has got to be kidding. He can't mean these words literally, can he? Is this even humanly possible? Think about those people who have angered you, the people who just rub you the wrong way. But Jesus being Jesus, he doesn't stop there. He keeps upping the ante, and he tells us, if someone steals from me, I'm to give them more. If they hit me, I'm to expose my other cheek so that no part of my face is missed. Jesus has to be kidding, right? Sometimes Jesus has used extreme examples to make his point. Gouge out an eye, cut off a foot if it causes you to sin. And he doesn't mean these things literally. When he uses that kind of language, he's just speaking figuratively, but unfortunately, I don't think that this is one of those cases. I think Jesus means exactly what he says here. So, what exactly is Jesus saying here? These verses from the Bible are actually some of the most misunderstood and mistranslated verses that we have. We don't understand the context in which Jesus spoke these words, and it is the context that makes all of the difference in our understanding of them. You know, there are a ton of books out there that try to help us understand the context in which Jesus lived. There's Walter Wink, Paul Penley, Kenneth Bailey. A lot of people have written books that teach us about the context. And context makes a huge difference. You know, there are classes out there that when people who are in the business world are going to travel overseas, they have to go to a class to understand the context of the country in which they're visiting, because otherwise they may offend their host. We learned this when we had a chance to go to Europe, and we were told by somebody, when you want to say the number 1 to people, don't use your index finger. That is a rude gesture. If you want to say 1, you go 1, 2, 3, because otherwise you're offending them. Context can make all of the difference. So turn the other cheek. One of my least favorite verses, because it seems to approve of the aggressor. Turn the other cheek. Well known, often quoted. It has been interpreted to mean that Jesus is encouraging us to be passive doormats. Let others beat you up. Don't let the aggressor miss any part of your face. It's led to all kinds of abuse, all kinds of church-sanctioned violence. It's been used to keep people who are in abusive relationships, keep them to stay put. Turn the other cheek. What's it mean? In Jesus' day, Roman soldiers were the law of the land, and I know you know that. When a soldier told a Jew to jump, the Jew was simply to ask how high. If a soldier told a Jew to go fetch a pail of water, or carry, or told a Jew to give him his shirt, they were expected to immediately obey. And if the Jew did not perform to the soldier's liking, a quick backhand across the face was about to follow. Now, the detail isn't included in this reading that we have from Luke, but in Matthew's version, Jesus specifically says this. He says, when you are struck on the right cheek, offer the left also. Now, most Roman soldiers were right-handed, and so when they would hit an equal, let's say they hit an equal or punch an equal, it would end up landing on the person's left cheek. However, if they were going to strike someone whom they considered inferior to them, they would hit with the back of their hand, and it would hit the right cheek. So the Roman soldiers saw the Jews as second-class creatures. They saw them as their inferiors. And so by offering the left cheek, the cheek that a Roman soldier would use to punch an equal, Jesus was encouraging people to peaceful protest. By offering the left cheek, they were demanding that that Roman soldier treat them as an equal. He wants to force the Roman soldiers to see in a different way. He's encouraging the Jews to stand up and demand respect. He wants to make the aggressor stop and think before treating someone else as an inferior. If someone demands you carry water for a mile, you go to. Why? To put the shame back on them. Cause them to stop and re-examine their decisions and their actions. Try to stir up their conscience so that they can live differently. What Jesus is doing in these verses isn't asking us to be submissive and let everybody walk all over us. He's calling us to peaceful protest. He's not saying, accept brutality. Instead, he's turning the spotlight onto the people who have chosen to abuse their power. So, quoting Paul Penley, if you meet evil with evil and blow for blow, the cycle of vengeance will never end. Palestinians displaced from their land who shoot rockets at Israelis will only escalate the Middle East crisis. The same goes for Israeli soldiers who break into Palestinian homes and leave it full of bullet casings after killing without explanation or warrant. Violence will beget violence unless someone is strong enough to rise above. I suspect you've heard the names Nelson Mandela, Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. These were men who understood the power of peaceful protest. And because they did, they successfully changed our world. Peaceful protest is a kind of power that takes courage and character, but it takes extreme perseverance. It's hard because it doesn't change things quickly. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison before apartheid was effected. Peaceful protest. It's one of the ways that Jesus wants us to transform our world. Jesus isn't commanding us to get beaten up. He's commanding us to become aware of injustice, to stand up and let our voices be heard and speak out against inhumane treatment. And he is demanding that we refrain from responding to violence and hate with violence and hate. Is that a message our world needs today or not? Love your enemy. Don't respond with vindictiveness and retribution, even though in your heart of hearts that's really what you want to do. Change the world by responding with love. Let love make it a chance of changing their heart and your own heart so that you can maybe live in peace with people. Do good to those who hate you. Don't give them more fuel for the fire. Respond to their hate with dignity and kindness, and thereby put the shame back on them. So what might it look like in our world if we were to live like this? It may mean responding with kind and selfless words when someone has come on the attack with accusatory and thoughtless one-liners. When someone has put you down and spoken ill of you, it may mean that you follow up their attack with a compliment of that person's strengths. You show him or her how to empower others thoughtfully so that the contrast between assault and building someone up can be seen. You don't fire back with a cheap shot. You step back into that space with love. Now, there's no guarantees. They just may fire away again. But they just might also become aware of their heartlessness and change. The hard part when we try to live these words of Jesus, when we try to stand up and demand that we be treated with dignity and respect as well as everyone around us is treated with dignity and respect, the hard part, of course, is that we can't expect it to work immediately. We may have to do it again and again and again. Love your enemy. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. Turn the other cheek. It isn't submissive. It's defiant.